Split is a super controversial map, so let's talk about the most important things you need to know to win on Split. First things first, stop rushing the main choke points as 5 except on pistol rounds or eco rounds. It's literally in the name of the map, Split, as in split up if you want to win. Split is a map that really rewards aggressively taking map control on both attack and defensive sides to control the pace of the round. Usually, the attackers need to use a lot of bodies and resources to take early control of areas like middle and A ramps, which gives the defense players on the other side of the map a great opportunity to push up and gather ultimate orbs or get positions to flank. Split is an interesting map that often plays out as sort of a multi-stage attack. Gunfights are possible almost instantly from the moment the barriers drop for each of the 3 main points of contention: middle, B main, and A main and ramps. For the attackers, the reward for gaining control of any of these areas is now having to fight through yet another small choke point to actually reach the site itself. However, once an area like middle vents or A ramp has been gained for the attackers, they are in much more control of the round since they can rotate through the vents, and those same choke points that are denying them access to the site are just as difficult for the defenders to fight back through and re-clear. This is why in pro games we usually see teams heavily fighting early in the round before slowing down, going quiet, and trying to bait the defenders into overthinking their rotations or making a bad aggressive push for information. Patience also plays a massive role on the defense because it can be really easy to panic when the attackers immediately begin to push you. However, losing mid control or A ramps just means that the attackers now have to fight through a more difficult choke point to actually get onto the site. And that means smokes here and here are great at denying heaven control to the attackers and can box attackers into small areas that can then be heavily punished with utility in response. If you've managed to actually break through onto the site as an attacker, there are 2 main plant spots on each site, and each kind of determines what your post plant should be. On the B site, the most common spot is this little area that sticks out just enough to give players bunkered in garage spam angles and the opportunity to throw stalling utility. Planting here also allows for a player to reflank through middle very late in the round and fire down from heaven on the defenders trying to defuse the spike. The other common planting location on B is behind the unspammable box, and while this is a safer plant from the defenders in heaven, it's tucked so far behind the main pillar that it means the attackers really need to stay on the site itself to fight for the post plant because there's no angles to shoot a defusing player from garage. Over on the A side of things, there are similar styles of post plant. Planting in front of the on-site flower box is very, very strong because it gives players in both A main and heaven angles to flank and stop the defuse from. However, this also means that the attackers need to either maintain control of heaven and A main or go for a late lurk or reflank as the defenders flood onto the site below. The other main spot to plant is in the very back corner by elbow. This is easily the safest place to get the spike down, but also requires for the attackers to stay on the site to fight since there are basically no angles to shoot at a diffusing player from. And it's definitely one of the main reasons we see people playing a lot of Sage on this map so that you can wall off elbow and just fight the main area of sight. Speaking of agents, the pro scene seems kind of split on whether to play 1 or 2 controllers, with Viper and Astra together seeing a lot of play, while Omen or Astra also get a lot of play on their own. Overall, the meta on this map is pretty open, but agents like Skye, Raze, Sage, and Cypher are definitely getting high pick rates in almost every single pro region. Regardless of what agents you end up picking, the many close 50-50 angles and tight choke points almost require some sort of Skye, Fade, or Gecko style utility to lead the way through if you want to play aggressively. Map geometry makes agents like Raze and Sage both able to heavily punish small entrances to the site with a single piece of utility, and this type of massive delay makes charging through as an attacking team very difficult. Because of this, we often see lurkers or a more spread out attacking default, which makes passive information a premium on Split. Because of how important flanking and lurking are, Cypher is a natural pick to both counter and enable this style of play. Split can be an absolute nightmare in ranked games because it's a map that requires a bit of teamwork to play optimally, especially on the attack side. And that's why you'll notice most of my tips so far have been about the attacking side of the map. With the right agent comp, defense mostly handles itself, and you should basically just be trying to counter the things that I've mentioned on the attacking side so far. One last thing I want to mention about Split is mentality on this map. Split has to be the most likely map to break a ranked player's mentality. If you lose the attacking pistol, it's super easy to fall behind 4-0 or 5-0 without even coming close to planting the spike. And at this point, there's about a 50% chance that someone will call for a forfeit vote and everyone will start playing solo for their own stats. Do not panic on Split. It's a map where it's very likely to recover from a 3-9 attack half to absolutely dominate the defense as long as you just keep shooting back. With Valorant announcing the Premier system, I have some pretty big plans for heavier strategy guide content going forward, and we'll be creating playbooks for each map in the coming months. These will be available to anyone that supports the channel with a membership, which is currently only $2.